With us, that's Ben Glaze, Ryan Elke. I'm Anthony Bolito. Joining us on the horn right now. He is a Michigan man, a Concordia alum, a proud and prestigious Concordia alum, I might add. He did his GA years under John Beilein. Now he's a coach at the Ohio University Bobcats. One of the top five teams, the only top five team in the MAC that won this past Tuesday, the Ohio Bobcats. The coach, Kyle Barlow. Find him on Twitter at Kyle Barlow4. Coach Barlow, my man, good morning to you. How are you? How's life? How are things?
Things are great, man. And listening to the show yesterday, I think you missed a chance for the John Rothstein. Anarchy? Nope, that's just college basketball, right? You said it was chaos. You were looking for the turn. I thought you were going to go with the Rothstein. Is this anarchy? Nope, just college basketball, baby. Four of the top five teams lose. Just a crazy night, man, and a night why you love college basketball, right? Not just the MAC basketball, but college basketball in general, because any given night, right? Any given Tuesday, anything can happen, especially when you're getting to this late in the year. And I want to ask you a question about coaches, because now we've seen it a couple times. So you get this late in the year, and your team's either going one of two ways, right? You're either trending up or trending down. Very few teams are kind of status quo because of the fact that the top 8 teams make the MAC tournament. You know, there's other tournaments. The Big Ten is going to be like that next year. So it's like you're either trending up or you're trending down. You either have something to play for or you don't have something to play for. And I want to ask you about coaches calling out their teams publicly. You know, you had the very public and well picked up Rick Pitino segment, right, where he just goes absolutely off on his team. And what did they do? I don't know. They just beat the number one team, or was it the number one team in the country? Was it UConn or Creighton? No, it was
Creighton, right? Yeah.
Yeah, dismantled Creighton in the game after that, and then just bludgeoned Butler last night. And Butler's been playing really well. They're one of those teams that were trending up. So it's like, okay, and now he's kind of saying, well, that was a planned, a hit, a tactic that, I like to use, whether you believe that or not. And then you have the Northern Illinois coach, which I don't know if you saw it, probably didn't get picked up as much. But after our game, they were really struggling in our game. Like, it was not the same team that was in Savage Arena on Tuesday. We played them the previous Saturday and beat them by 20 in a really just unexciting game. You know, for us it was exciting, but just an unexciting game. And after the game, their head coach, Barlow, he said, whoever shows up at practice tomorrow, that's who we're taking to Toledo. So not as strong as Rick Pitino, but still a statement is like, man, like whoever shows up, we're taking. That's who the dudes we're rolling with. You know, really a shot fired across the bow. So I want to ask you about that. Like, do you think it impacts the next game? Because now we've seen in a couple small things just in the past 2 weeks, a couple of occasions that it's really changed the way the team has played.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that Northern Illinois game. Is it true they were missing 3 of their top players in that game against Toledo? I saw a guy from BGSU was tweeting about it, and I'm like, wait a minute, who, what? I mean, I was working, so I didn't get to actually see the game. I just saw the final result. But I think that from the outside looking in, right, you coach the sport, so you know what it's like. I think that if your guys know that that you have their back, and if something goes wrong, that you understand that, okay, like I'm not afraid to say, hey, this is my fault. I didn't have the guys prepared, or our plan wasn't great, or whatever the case may be. The coach falls on the sword. I think if they see that happen, that they're a little bit more willing to, or a little bit more maybe responsive to when the coach goes after them. Because it's like, man, he never does that. I think that if you constantly, if you win and you credit yourself, but then you lose and you throw the players under the bus, and that seems to be a trend, and it happens a lot. The players hear it, they see it, they understand. So I think that's kind of the dice roll. That's the personality, right, of your program. That's the personality of your players, and only you would know that.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think you got to know them. Thinking every player, I think coaching is about motivation, right? And that's something Jim Calhoun always used to say. And you really can't coach the same one player the same as you coach the other, because, people are motivated by different things, right? So I think that's a very interesting thing to think about. And then on the other hand, you do have you do have guys who go out there and there's only so many more things you can do. Like, I think Rick Pitino felt desperate. You feel it. We probably have Michigan State fans who, listen to the show and are tuning in are like, yeah, but we need Izzo to do that because Izzo will not do that. He refuses to do that. And, he says some backhanded things like, well, it can't be anybody else's fault nowadays and the way things are, so I guess it's my fault. So that's a very backhanded way to say it, but, he won't do it. But then you look across the country and St. John's did it, and St. John's got a jolt from it. So maybe some Spartan fans are like, we need that. We need that.
I had a great conversation last night with a few Spartan dogs, as they like to say, and the questioning of Tom Izzo is just, and look, like, here's the deal. You've been there for that long. You have won national championship. It was very early on. The success hinges on the Final Fours, and those types of banners. I find it very interesting. I'm not one I don't want to challenge Tom Izzo. I know that he's forgotten more about the game than I'll ever know. It has worked for a very long time. The guy is bigger than the Pope on that campus. Hell, they named the football facility after him, for God's sakes. He's not even a football coach, right? He is that dude on campus. But my question is, when you see some of the things from a lineup perspective, like fans want Xavier Booker to play more. They flat out want him to play. Like, why are they so obsessed with Mady Sissoko? It doesn't matter if the guy's been there 50 years. The dude gives you maybe 8 points and 2 rebounds in 40 minutes. Like, move on. Like, let him come off the bench. They're just very, very frustrated. And I guess my question is, what do you really expect? Because making the tournament isn't really a thing for them anymore. Right? They've made it so much that making the tournament's a given, right? They want to win the damn thing. Making a Final Four raises everybody's eyebrows, but at the end of the day, like, they want to win it. That's not even a question. That's just like a statement, because I'm like, look, I don't want to say anything, but at the same time, it's like, yo, where are your titles at?
Yeah, I think a lot of the frustration for Michigan State fans fall into, it's not you do trust Tom Izzo, right? And he's earned that right. And you laid out the reasons perfectly before you started or at the beginning when you're talking. But I think the frustrations lies, this isn't the Tom Izzo we've seen, not the fiery, get in your face kind of guy, get on Sports Center and have all those midday shows talk about you being a bully and then all the dads coming out and saying, I want him to coach my son like that. He's becoming a man when he coaches like that. Where is all that gone? And I think the answer is Coach Izzo knows it's a different era, and you don't do that. But I think that's the Michigan State fans' frustration. Like, look, we were good when you were doing all that stuff. You were getting in people's faces. You were fiery. You were calling people out. But I think that's where a lot of the frustration lies. And you said when you said, yeah, they named the football facility after him. He's not even a football coach. It's like when I order a club sandwich at Subway, or I order a club sandwich and I'm not even in the club or I'm not even a member, I don't know how I get away with it,
Hey, by the way, Justin Feldkamp, he wants to know when Bellino and Barlow launch. He just texted me that. He's like, man, it's this Kyle guy. He's really something. I miss him when he was here. Oh, he's just gassing you up. I'm like, relax. I was like, I'll read the first part of these texts, but I don't want to get this guy, I don't want to overinflate here. I find it fascinating this time of year. So I'm yesterday morning, right, I'm going through the scores and I'm like, holy mackerel, 4 out of the top 5 teams in the conference lost, and the team that didn't lose beat one of the, it was you guys, right, beating Akron 74-67. I was shocked at how everything played out Tuesday. And we did one of our like smaller segments just on the standings, because I, for one, believe that like the MAC, we have 5 schools within our listening range, right? Within all of our different affiliates across the state of Michigan and in Northwest Ohio as well. And Freddie the Pizza Man came after me, I'm talking about college basketball. Did you not know there's spring training? He's good, just ripping me a new one. I'm like, dude, this is great stuff. This is it. Like, you got to get your positioning right now for the Mid-American Conference tournament, because you want to make the path of least resistance. Like, you want it to be as easy as possible, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I listened to the segment yesterday, and I do appreciate you saying that, we're friends and that Ohio's not paying for the spot. Although, as soon as you said that, it got me thinking. I'm like, like when your parents pay, people to be your friends when you're young if you're kind of a loser. I'm like, wait, does Ohio pay behind my back Bellino just so Bellino can gas me up a little bit and I feel good about myself?
I opened up my banking app and it said Bulls direct deposit. That's what it said. It was 5 digits and had a comma. I was getting all excited.
It's kind of in my head now, like when after the first time you saw the Truman Show and you're like, wait, is that my life? Is my life the Truman Show? Has it been this way all along? Too many coincidences, boy. Too many coincidences. But no, it's what you live for, right? And it's like, you get those teams that jump out and establish them as the premier teams in the MAC, and that's Akron and Toledo this year in basketball. And, they established that from early on in the conference season. And then it's like, okay, you get to these days. These are the dog days, man. They really are. Like the conference tournament's still 2 weeks away. So you have that jolt of energy. You have that excitement. But it's like, who are these teams right now who are going to be the teams that are just starting to gel together? Maybe it's you're coming off of injuries. Maybe it's, you're getting a couple guys back becoming healthy. Or maybe it's you're just starting to figure out who you are and who fits best in what role and how you win. Right. And I think that's what our team has started to figure out a little bit. We won 8 of our last 10 at this point. And, like you said, a big win against Akron. But I think our guys are really starting to get to that point where they're player led. And we talk about Coach Izzo. And I've talked about it on this show before, but one of the quotes I like from him the best is, if your team is not player led by March, then you're not going to be very good. And right now, like sometimes I can't get a word in the huddle, and that's not because Coach Bowles is talking. It's because the guys are talking. And sometimes, like, I want to interject, but I'm like, you know what? No, let them take ownership, because at the end of the day, that's something that Coach Bowles does a great job of letting his guys take ownership, even if it's not what we want to do schematically or strategy-wise. But if they believe in it, then they're the ones going out there doing it. So if you have ownership in it, bro, more power to you, my friend. You go do it, and it has those results. So one thing that I always take from Coach Izzo is that, and, some of the best teams I've ever been around have been those player-led teams at the end of the season.
Boy, it's it is fascinating, right? As the Mid-American Conference, you take 8 teams to Cleveland now. They redid the tournament a couple times, and the first round was on campus sites, and then everybody was in Cleveland or however they did it, and it's just it's the nonstop evolution. But you got to be one of the top 8 to get in. Your team right now sitting in 3rd, and this can be applied like basically across the board. You can look at the Big Ten as well, because there's only a handful of games left. You guys are 2 games back of Akron, 1 game back of Toledo. You got Bowling Green on the docket for your last home game, and then 2 road contests, Buffalo and Miami, that we'll get to next week. But you look at this CBS Sports Network, by the way, national TV, 6 o'clock tip-off against Bowling Green. What are you telling your guys as far as the moment, what you're playing for? Like, everybody lost, you guys won. It kicked the door right back open. Like, you guys finished strong here. Like, is this something you're talking about, or is it kind of like, no, we still have to just be 1 game at a time? Like, don't throw anything out there on the board and get somebody, thinking about something that's 2 weeks away.
No, it's one game at a time, and it's definitely been that way. We're
here to go 3-0 and win the MAC.
Look, if we would have won at Toledo, which we were a bad travel call away, and another travel that didn't get called on them away from doing it. If we would have won at Toledo, then yeah, like I think that you would be thinking about that. Hey, we're 1 game back now, and we just beat the team that we're chasing, right? So I think that might have entered the conversation. But you still have 2 teams ahead of you, 2 teams who are very good. 2 teams who don't have to play each other, or us, so the top 3 we're all done playing each other. So you just assume they're going to take care of business. And for us, and the reason why we're 1 at a time is, look, we're playing really good basketball right now. We're doing something special. So it's like, why? Let's know the why. It's because, in practice, we've had great focus practice. We've had player-led teams. So let's keep encouraging these things and get to the point. I still think we can be better. We had a kid go down as our leading scorer with injury about a month ago. And by the way, about 3.5 weeks ago, now we're 3rd. We were sitting in the 8-9 spot, about 3.5 weeks ago. We're sitting here like, oh shoot, we're in a dogfight to make Cleveland. So how quickly things can change, right? But we had a kid go down at Western Michigan, miss a few games, come back and not be right. He was our leading scorer and leading rebounder, Elmore James, and he's still finding a way to integrate into the lineup now that we've had some success, with other guys starting. And, those guys are 5th-year seniors, and those guys win in late in the season in March when you have those 5th-year seniors and older guys. So I still think we have room for growth in this area, and I think that's the most thing we're focusing on. And yes, that's Coach Speak Molino. Absolutely, Coach Speak. There you go.
If you look
101, we teach it. Central Michigan has a coaching minor. I'm sure they have a class on it.
Coaching minor. You look at, you mentioned the Western Michigan game, 2-point loss on the road. You mentioned Toledo in the calls, 2-point loss on the road. Like those are tightly contested games, right? And then for the younger guys, it's something you can kind of look back on. Like at the end of the season, you're getting ready for next year. It's like, look at these 2 games here and how these played a role in where we finished last year, right? And that's, like February, I know January and February has got to be tough. It is, because it's the grind, it's the little bit of consistent scheduling, which is kind of a nice thing, but at the same time, it's like, you can't go through the motions, right? You got to fight that out of these college kids. Man, it's tough. Hey, by the way, I wanted to tell you, your friend's going to join us coming up in hour number 3.
Who's that?
Dan Watson.
Oh, okay.
Waddy's coming on. Grand Rapids Griffins. The guys are just buzzing. The boys are buzzing right now, Barlow.
You know what's great? Last time I saw Waddy, we were, you might have even been there, I'm not sure, but we were at the Blarney on a random, maybe Wednesday, in about this time of a year. And, we were having a dinner. I forget who was there with me, but we're having dinner, enjoying a nice cold beverage, maybe working on getting our name on the wall, if you know what I mean. And then Waddy walks in, and so we're talking. I didn't know him like that, but, I knew him he's been through a couple times, been through the offices at Toledo when I was there. So we're talking, and he's like, all right, about to go load the bus. So they were getting on the bus at like 8 p.m. to drive overnight to probably Omaha or somewhere. So he's like, all right, let me get a few beers, maybe a JMO so I can sleep better on this bus. I'm like, man, we really do just live different lives, don't we?
Oh, man, that ECHL grind is no joke.
No joke. Imagine hopping on, going to Blarney, and then getting a few adult beverages, and then hopping on the bus to go to Western Michigan, right, for a basketball game the next day. I'm like, man, we live different lives, my friend, but I love it, man. Great dude. Glad for all of his successes, especially getting up to Grand Rapids Griffins. A lot of good Red Wings prospects down there that I've been reading about. And how about them Wings, man?
Woo! How about
them Wings?
Hey, Hockey Town. We're back, Kyle.
What was the conversation like with you and Stevie Y last night? Come on, spill the beans.
I told him what I usually tell, like the same thing I told Brad Holmes. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Like this, you can tell. And I brought up Colorado being the first playoff game in Little Caesars Arena, and it's caught a couple people around the organization a little off, but then they knew what I was saying, and they kind of agreed. They're like, yeah, that was That was a game, 2-1 winner in overtime. You're down 1-0. Colorado's a team that's, second place in the division at the time that you see them. They're in the playoffs, and it's like, this is a playoff. This is a team you have to be able to beat, and it's at home, and just the energy in that building. What was it, last Thursday? I mean, it was sensational. It was crazy. So, it was great.
Can you ask Coach Waddy? Because I was just thinking about Patrick Kane, Kaner. Can you ask Coach Waddy why everybody's name ends in an R in hockey? Why is every nickname end in an R in hockey? I've always wondered that.
Because it used to end in Y, but now they moved it to R, and now we gotta go. He is the coach, Kyle Barlow. Follow him on Twitter, Kyle Barlow 4. Hour 3 is next. X's and O's, Michigan Sports Network.
Huge.